Hello everyone! In this video I'm going to cover nearly all of the lore that is already known about Warlords of Draenor. A ton of information will come at you, so if you want to watch it in a couple of sessions, I've placed links in the description to my individual videos. Before we begin, a big thank you for the people over at finalboss.tv for providing me with additional information and material. If you're looking for a podcast with some solid information about Endgame raiding, check them out next Sunday, link is in the description, and we might see each other in the chat room. With all that out of the way, let's begin. At BlizzCon, they've mostly talked about how the expansion is going to begin and what we're going to see once we reach Draenor. This is of course for obvious reasons. They don't want you to know exactly what's going to happen throughout the entire expansion. So how does the story start? Let's find out. Garrosh is going to escape with the help of a friend with time travel powers. They first said that this was just a friend, and later they dropped the name Cairo Dormu, the dragon name for Kairos, who we met on the Timeless Isle.
What you're here to do? Well, you're here to defeat the Iron Horde. These guys have found a way, as a result of Kairos Dormu and his involvement, to connect this world of Draenor of 35 years in the past, have that portal that gets built up connect to our time.
Garrosh is going to go back in time, around 2 years before the orcs drink demon blood, get corrupted, destroy Draenor, and become slaves to the Burning Legion. By changing these events, he creates a whole new reality, different from ours, so our past, the lore and history that we know about the orcs, won't change at all. Our history, our world is perfectly fine. This is a completely new reality, a completely new timeline. Even in this new reality, the orcs will become the Horde, only now it's called the Iron Horde. They also built a dark portal, but this dark portal doesn't only connect to Azeroth, it connects to our Azeroth in our current time period, somewhere after the siege. To put that into a picture, here's the original timeline where we have Horde invading all the way to Garrosh getting his butt kicked. Garrosh, after getting his butt kicked, escapes with some help, travels back to around 32 years ago and changes the events that we know, creating a complete new reality with a new timeline. Now comes the twist in the story. They then build the dark portal and connect this new reality that is for us set back 30 years to our reality at the current time period. And it connects these two worlds, and that's going to happen somewhere after the siege. I know that some people drew the conclusion from the information given that we won't travel back through time, that we're only going to travel to this new Draenor, but that this Draenor is in sync with our timeline. This is not correct. Garrosh is not going to wait 30 years, we're not going to see old timers, old Warlords of Draenor with walking sticks. The Draenor that we're going to see is around 30 years in the past for us, around the time of the novel Rise of the Horde. Here's the explanation given by Chris Metzen.
Actually, on that point, just to get out ahead of it, like with the time thing, I mean, we've got a number of stories kind of set in the past, War of the Ancients and things like that, and there have been issues over time where there's little potholes or little breaks in the line. As that factored into this expansion set and really chasing this story, we certainly thought a lot about that. The time travel stuff's, it could be pretty rough, just as writers and making, editorially making sure everything lines up and everything's hip. Sometimes, things don't go to plan. So with this one, we just want to say very clearly that yes, at some point, oh my God, some point soon, Garrosh will go back in the past, but the point at which he arrives, which is slightly before the events of Rise of the Horde.
You can stop now.
Oh, I lost my train of thought. See how complicated it is? But at the point at which he arrives, it's all normal kind of continuity to that point, and the point at which he arrives, effectively, it's like it's its own game. Our world's fine. History's fine. The threat, ultimately, is it maybe makes like a quantum... I'm not going to go there. He told me to stop, I'll stop. Fine. You explain it.
If we do our job, as the past is fine. We are focused on Draenor, going here, kicking some orc but
They said that time travel will not be a part of this expansion, and they've really hammered on this point. What they meant by that is that although we will see some traveling through time, the expansion is not going to be all about time travel. It's just a tool to get us to this Iron Horde Draenor, a tool to bring these orcish badasses back into the story, to show the Draenei in their prime and to show Draenor before it got all corrupted and blown up. Time travel always brings a lot of complications, a lot of plot holes. Like I explained with the War of the Ancients trilogy, they want to avoid that. Don't think about any time travel complications. Don't think about future Garrosh meeting past Garrosh. Don't think about duplicate items. All of that, they're not going to deal with it. Time travel is just a way to get us there. The rest of the expansion will not deal with it. So Noble, if this is just an alternative reality with an alternative timeline, why should we care about this Iron Horde? Well, that's where the Dark Portal and the connection to our reality and our time period comes in. This Iron Horde wants to invade our Azeroth in our time period, and we need to stop them. They've explained that this is going to be a story experienced. It's not going to be told, it's not going to be reading about this. You're going to experience how you're going to go into that time period. And they've explained that this is going to be similar to the pre-events that the Death Knights had in the starting area. So it's going to be a set of events that you're going through, a suicide mission they even called it, and this will get you to the Iron Horde Draenor. And there, you're either going to team up with the Draenei of that time period, that's for the Alliance of course, or you're going to team up with the Frostwolves if you're the Horde. So that's the intro, and once we reach Draenor you can see it as it was before it got corrupted by demonic influences, before it got blown up by Ner'zhul and his portals. This planet Draenor is what we call Outland today, only it's in his full glory in the middle of the Orc-Draenei war. From the introduction trailer you could see some of Garrosh's influence. These big monsters, they're called Gron, and they were the master of the ogres. In our history the orcs teamed up with the ogres, but never with the Gron, so Garrosh has changed that. On top of the Gron, you might notice some badass technology similar to what we've seen in the Siege of Orgrimmar. Garrosh has taken blueprints with him, knowledge from the future, to upgrade this Iron Horde. On the other side, we see Velen fighting. In the original story, he was all about trying to get some peace going with the orcs. Sure, they eventually fought back, but they were slaughtered, overrun, and the Naaru told him that he was needed for a greater purpose. That all of this struggling between Draenei and Horde would eventually lead them to the Army of Light, and Velen was a key part of that. In this reality, he's at the forefront, kicking ass and taking names, which implies that he has seen, or perhaps the Naaru have told him, that something is up, that something isn't right. This is not the way things were supposed to go down, and now he has the liberty of fighting back. Don't forget that Velen has the power to see the future. If anyone knows that something is going on here, it's him. By staying off the demon juice and not using fel magic, the world of Draenor never dries out, it never gets corrupted, which makes for some interesting developments, both for the story and the planet. We will see places like Shafra, connected to the ocean of Draenor. Those mushroom creatures that we know from Zangamash, in this time period on this planet, they are whales. Okidian, or however you pronounce it, the sacred burial place of the Draenei, is not blown up yet. The Black Temple, it's still called Karabor, and the Draenei never developed into the broken or the lost ones. Those are just a few examples of the changes that Garrosh has created, and as I said, the Dark Portal will be built, and it is going to connect our Azeroth and our time period to which we react and stop the Iron Horde from invading. Once we reach Draenor, Alliance and Horde are going to conquer their own cities and create a base of operations. We're not going to just get a city, you're going to need to conquer it or defend it. Awesome. The Horde is going to assist the Frostwolf clan, led by Durotan, who is Thrall's father, and they are located in Frostfire Ridge, a land both with snow and active volcanoes. Apparently the Frostwolf clan is not going to join this Iron Horde. It has some issues to go through though, they need to get their act together, probably some disagreement about this choice, but in the end they'll be on the side of Team Future Horde. The Frostwolf clan has to deal with another race native to Draenor, namely the ogres. These are not the ogres that you and I have met, these are bigger, better, most badass, savage ogres. On the Iron Horde Draenor, they are the ones who have the big civilization. Orcs, They were scattered clans, and the Draenei pretty much kept to themselves, so the ogres are a big thing in this time period. They are the ones with the big civilization. You're going to take Bladespire Citadel, liberate it, and use it as your own base, and that will be your capital city. Another threat that the Frostwolf clan has to deal with is that they're fighting with the Thunderlord clan, who are about to enter the Iron Horde. I didn't know much about the Thunderlord clan, so I asked around on the forums. Apparently these guys are monster hunters. They hunt the giants of Draenor, they're riding on wolves, they're kicking ass. They want to join the Iron Horde. We don't want the Iron Horde to get any stronger, so we're going to have to do something about that. The Alliance will assist the Draenei. Draenei are of course led by Velen the Prophet, and this area is located in Shadowmoon Valley. On the Iron Horde Draenor, Shadowmoon Valley isn't the green fiery volcano area that we know. It's a forest, and it's always nighttime, it's always dark, and the main city that you're defending is Karabor. We know it as the Black Temple. I had the chance to talk to Bay from Final Boss TV. He was actually there at BlizzCon and he was able to check out this starting area. I asked him, is it going to be as huge as the Black Temple? He told me it's going to be even bigger. The area is under attack by the Iron Horde and Alliance needs to repel this attacking force, otherwise the Draenei won't stand a chance. The Iron Horde is going to invade from the docks and we gotta defend the city, otherwise, yeah, we're in trouble. Once that is done, it becomes your capital city, but there's another threat in the area. The Shadowmoon clan. This clan is led by Ner'zhul and it has several camps in Shadowmoon Valley. Ner'zhul is hell-bent on joining the Iron Horde and he will do anything to his people to make that a reality. We don't want that. We don't want Ner'zhul into the Iron Horde, so we're going to have to do something about it. As you can imagine, with a title like Warlords of Draenor, the Warlords are going to play a huge part in the story. But who are they? What do we know about them from our reality? And what can we expect to find on this Iron Horde Draenor? Keep in mind that some of these Warlords have such a big story behind them that they will get their own individual videos in the future. For now, let's just cover the basics and find out what we know about these Warlords. Garrosh Hellscream of the Warsong clan, father of Garrosh, located in Nagrand. Grom Hellscream is probably the most popular and commonly known warlord. Grom from our time was the first who stepped up when Gul'dan offered the orcs a drink to increase their power. He was the one most eager to go to battle, no matter what battle it was. His war cry is fitting for his name, and his weapon Gorehind sings as it strikes in battle. He was not a part of the first Horde invasion, but he was there when they came back for the second time to collect artifacts for Ner'zhul. He, together with Rexxar and others, held the Dark Portal on the Alliance side as others made their way through Azeroth. When Khadgar was forced to close the Dark Portal, Grom and the others were locked out and had to stay behind on Azeroth. After around 20 years, Thrall comes into the picture and Grom Hellscream was the first orc that Thrall got a chance to talk to after escaping from Durnhold. 20 years of demon blood pumping in Grom's veins had changed him from a hothead, all about fighting and warmongering, to someone who could agree with Thrall's notion of peace and negotiation. He helped Thrall to liberate the other orcs from the internment camps and the reforging of this new horde. Even after all these years, he still took a big gulp of demon blood back in Warcraft 3, knowing what it would do with them. It was thanks to Jaina Proudmoore, Thrall and some others that he regained his senses, and in the end he managed to land the killing blow and set his people free from their slavery to the demons by killing Manoroth.
Thrall, the blood haze has lifted. The demon's fire has burnt out in my veins. I have freed myself.
On this Iron Horde Draenor, Grom is going to be the one who will unite the clans into the Iron Horde. He is a rockstar, kicking ass, taking names, but he is going to have anger issues. This Grom never had that journey that ours had, so the Grom that you, me, Thrall and even Garrosh remembers might turn out to be just a little bit too hot-headed. They also said, will the anger get the best of him? I would bank on it. So it will be very interesting to see how they're going to do his story. Will his anger once again make him fall, or is he going to learn how to deal with it? And will they be able to keep that picture that people have of Grom Hellscream, that hero, that ultimate orc? Will they do it justice, or will people hate what they're going to do with him? Will be very interesting to see. Durotan of the Frost Wolf clan, Thrall's father, located in Frostfire Ridge. Durotan from our time was one of the orcs who was not happy with the events that unfolded on Draenor. He was not happy with finding the Draenei, especially since they saved his life and orc and Draenei lived peacefully together for many years. So he didn't embrace the idea of waging war with them as much as the other orcs did. He was against the demonic powers offered by Gul'dan. He refused to drink from the blood of Manoroth, and he was the one who went to Orgrim Doomhammer on Azeroth and told him about Gul'dan's betrayal. This act eventually cost him his life, because Gul'dan had sent assassins to kill him, but he did stood up against him, did let his voice be heard as all around him his brothers fell to the demonic corruption. He was one of the few orcs that had the balls to actually stand up and say something against this, that this was not their way. On this Iron Horde Draenor, Durotan's people rejected the Iron Horde's call for Orcish unity to focus on their own survival. They moved to Frostfire Ridge, and there they battle with the Thunderlord clan and the ogres who are inside the Bladespire fortress. As they presented Durotan, they asked the question, will he join the Iron Horde this time, since they are no longer influenced by demons, but later they said that he's going to be part of Team Future Horde and that they're going to be part of their starting area. He is the only Orcish warlord that's confirmed to be on our side. They also asked the question, was Durotan a noble dude at heart, or did the situation turn him into this noble dude? It will be very interesting to find out. Ner'zhul of the Shadowmoon clan, located in Shadowmoon Valley. Ner'zhul from our time played a huge part in the story of Warcraft. He was the one who first got in contact with Kil'jaeden, and Kil'jaeden manipulated him into forming the first horde and kill all the Draenei. Ner'zhul would eventually find out that Kil'jaeden was just using them, but by that time it was already far too late, and his apprentice Gul'dan was happy to step in and follow the orders of Kil'jaeden. Ner'zhul didn't do much to prevent any further corruption of his people, because he feared Kil'jaeden and he feared for his own life. He did send a note to Durotan to prevent him from drinking the demon blood, but that's about it. When the first horde invasion of Azeroth failed, Teron Gorefiend stepped up to Ner'zhul with a plan to create more portals to different worlds. They failed to conquer Azeroth, but other planets might not put up so much resistance, and Ner'zhul was all behind this plan. They gathered 3 artifacts from Azeroth, and in the end Ner'zhul made his portal. Not just one portal, portals all over Draenor, and he told the orcs who were with him to step through the portal and follow him to the Promised Land. The remaining horde was still fighting the Alliance at this time, and the others didn't want to leave their brothers behind. Ner'zhul killed one of them to get them motivated, and they reluctantly stepped through the portal to this unknown destination. Unknown to Ner'zhul though, this portal would not lead him to the Promised Land, it would lead him straight to Kil'jaeden, who still had some unfinished business with the orc who refused to follow his orders. He ripped Ner'zhul his soul in little pieces, causing agonizing pain, only to reform it and do it all over again. After a while, Kil'jaeden got bored with this, and he came up with a new plan that would require Ner'zhul to be turned into the Lich King, and he would be sent off to Azeroth to weaken it and get it ready for a new invasion from the Burning Legion. After that, the events of Warcraft 3 follow, which is too much story to go into right now, but that's pretty much the backstory of Ner'zhul. On this Iron Horde Draenor, Ner'zhul is leading the Shadowmoon clan, and it's interesting to note that his description on the website says the following. His vision of a united Orcish culture has been eclipsed by the manipulation of his apprentice Gul'dan, and the bloody reality of the rising Iron Horde. If I read this right, it almost seems like he was busy getting the Horde together, like we know from our timeline, like Kil'jaeden found the Draenei, wanted them dead, manipulated Ner'zhul into forming the Horde. Gul'dan betrayed him, and it looks like the same events are going to take place for this Iron Horde Draenor, except this time they don't drink any blood. That's just my interpretation, you could take this in a lot of ways, but what we know for sure is that Ner'zhul wants to be in this Iron Horde. He wants to be part of this, and it matches the Ner'zhul that we knew. Sure, he was manipulated by Kil'jaeden, but he had a little lust for power inside of him, and in the end, he betrayed all the other orcs. It will be interesting to see what this Ner'zhul is going to do to be worthy of this Iron Horde, and they described him as the shaman to the shamans. As in, you might be a good shaman, this guy is the top dog. Gul'dan of the Storm Reaver clan, also located in Shadowmoon Valley. In our timeline, Gul'dan was the one who led the orcs down the path of demon blood, fell magic, and he didn't give a crap about his people. All he cared about was power. Power and even more power. When Ner'zhul figured out that Kil'jaeden was manipulating the orcs, he wanted out. Gul'dan was the apprentice of Ner'zhul. He found out about Ner'zhul wanted to stop all these events, and he took Ner'zhul his place in following the orders of Kil'jaeden. Kil'jaeden promised Gul'dan the good life, powers beyond his imagination, but once the orcs fulfilled their mission, killed nearly all the Draenei, Kil'jaeden just left them to their fate. It was at that moment that Medivh, under the influence of Sargeras, contacted Gul'dan and told him about Azeroth and how to build a portal to it. The Horde invades, and Gul'dan decides to spy in the mind of Medivh in search of more power. Unfortunately, at that moment Medivh gets killed because his friends found out that he was corrupted, and this put Gul'dan into a coma. In the meantime, Durotan informs Orgrim Doomhammer about Gul'dan's betrayal, and Orgrim steps up. He takes out Blackhand and becomes the war chief of the Horde. Now Gul'dan's in trouble, but he manages to convince Doomhammer to keep him alive, and in exchange he creates more powerful troops, the first Death Knights. In the end, Gul'dan's lust for power would strike a devastating blow to the first Horde invasion. As they march to lay siege to the capital of Lordaeron, Gul'dan takes his troops and sets off to the tomb of Sargeras in search of more power. Orgrim Doomhammer, hell-bent on keeping the honor in the Horde and making an example of those who don't uphold that honor, is forced to send troops after Gul'dan. This forces the Horde to fall back, and eventually they would be defeated. Gul'dan's fate was sealed though when he entered the tomb of Sargeras, as the demons there took great pleasure in killing this treacherous orc. However, that wasn't the last time we saw Gul'dan. Even his skull manipulated events and allowed the Horde to invade for a second time, and eventually giving Illidan the power needed to take out Tychondrius in Warcraft 3. Some of you already noticed that Gul'dan still has a green skin. On this Iron Horde Draenor, Gul'dan is going to be the only one who drinks the demon juice, and as he offers it to the others, events don't go as planned. Garrosh prevents the orcs from drinking, and this places Gul'dan in a very awkward position. He's an outcast now of the Horde, so his Shadow Council, the construction of the Dark Portal, all of those plans are a no-go. Gul'dan is not happy with that, and neither is Kil'jaeden. Yes, Gul'dan and Kil'jaeden are still on the phone with each other, and that should lead to some very interesting story development. If they do it right, Gul'dan's character should be manipulative, backstabbing, and willing to do anything to get to that power. It's interesting that Gul'dan is located in Shadowmoon Valley together with Ner'zhul and his clan, and even the Draenei and the Alliance main city. I wonder how that's going to play out. Blackhand of the Blackrock clan, located in Gorgrond. Blackhand from our time was the very first war chief of the Horde, but in reality he was a puppet of Gul'dan who ruled behind the curtains. When the orcs started to magically age their children to get more troops, Blackhand was one of the first to offer his kids, and this created some messed up adults with the mind of children. It was Blackhand who led the Horde into their first invasion of Azeroth, but later Gul'dan's betrayal would be known to Orgrim Doomhammer, and Orgrim was the second in command to Blackhand, and he killed Blackhand to take the title of War Chief and lead the orcs down a more honorable path. You can still fight a child of Blackhand in Upper Blackrock Spire, located in Blackrock Mountain. People already asked me if this clan was named after the mountain or the mountain after the clan, but this is not the case. Both of them already had their names, and Blackhand just saw it as a good omen that they shared a common name. Blackhand and his clan on the Iron Horde Draenor are the backbone of the Iron Horde. Now that Gul'dan isn't manipulating him, Blackhand is a more honest orc. He and his clan are the Smiths, and they are the ones who took Garrosh's blueprints of the future and turned them into weapons for the Iron Horde. One of the raids that we're going to get is called Blackrock Foundry, where we are going to dismantle this foundry of weapons and armor creation, and in the end we'll face off against Blackhand himself. Kargath of the Shattered Hand clan, located in Spires of Arak. Kargath from our time has a pretty interesting story. In the time period where Ner'zhul is trying to make all these new portals, Kargath was left behind to stall the Alliance who were trying to stop Ner'zhul. This allowed Ner'zhul to make his way to the Black Temple, but in the end Kargath would realize that he was left to die, so he took his people to Nagrand to regroup and find more troops to battle the Alliance. There he asked Great Mother Gaia if there were any able orcs in the area to fight with them. But Gaia wasn't happy with everything that happened to the orcs. The formation of the Horde, the corruption of the planet, the use of demonic powers, and she thought that the Alliance invading their planet was their own damn fault. She told him to look around and see that these orcs were sick and not able to fight. To Kargath, they seemed to have all their limbs required, and as long as they could hold a weapon, that would do. At that moment, one orc, sick with rat pox, walks up to them and asks what Kargath is doing here. Did something happen to his father? And as he was talking, he fell over and started to puke out blood. Young Garrosh Hellscream was not able to join the war effort because he was sick. But Kargath realized that these orcs would be of no use. "You pathetic weaklings," he snarled. "Do the Horde a favor and die here. If you can't help defend your people, you have no right to live." Nice going, Kargath. Thanks for messing up Garrosh like that for us. And over time, Kargath would serve Manoroth and later serve Illidan. You can still fight him in the Shattered Halls of Hellfire Citadel. Kargath on this Iron Horde Draenor got enslaved by ogres to work in the mines, but one day he had enough. He used his own chains to strangle one of the ogres, and then he cuts off his own hand to set himself free. After that, he turns around to the others and asks who's next, and they're all like, "We're with you, man," so they all escape from those mines, and this clan is formed by many different clans, who were all enslaved, and it's a very dark and pain-minded clan. Many more followed his example of cutting off a body part and replacing it with some kind of weapon, and they don't mind inflicting some of that pain on their enemies. Kilrogg of the Bleeding Hollow clan, located in Tanaan jungle. In our timeline, Kilrogg was at the front of the war. He was one of the first to drink from the demon blood, he was there during the first invasion, and he was there when the Horde attacked for the second time to collect the artifacts Ner'zhul required to make his portals. Despite that, Kilrogg was an older chieftain, and with age comes wisdom, so he was more unwilling to just throw away lives for the war. To compare that to someone, Kilrogg didn't mind fighting, but he wasn't a Grom Hellscream. He wasn't all about Lok'tar Ogar, let's go fight stuff and doesn't matter what happens. He was older, he was wiser, he was Grom as we met him later when he teams up with Thrall. Anyways, that's besides the point. The younger orcs, they saw this as a weakness, which caused Kilrogg to kill at least 3 of his own sons and 2 of his grandsons, who thought they could rule the clan better than him. Orcish rules, man. If you want to rule the clan, you gotta take out the war chief. Which Thrall has changed of course, but those orcish rules are pretty damn brutal. Eventually, Kilrogg would join Ner'zhul and Teron Gorefiend as they made their way to the Black Temple to start creating these portals. Right behind them were the Alliance forces, so they made their way to Anduin, despite Kilrogg his fears. Don't make the mistake of thinking that he was a coward. Anduin is just a very scary place, and Kilrogg believed that going there would mean their doom. Eventually, he managed to stall the Alliance forces, allowing Ner'zhul and Teron Gorefiend to escape and continue their journey to the Black Temple. It was there, in the Shadow Labyrinth, that Kilrogg lost his life by the hands of Danav Trollbane. On this Iron Horde Draenor, the Bleeding Hollow clan is a very shamanistic clan, but also a very tribal one. They live in the jungle, they're kinda out of their mind, and the shamanism that they practice is much more dark and savage. They have a ritual that each new war chief goes through, and this ritual was described as being in a Blair Witch cave, all gruesome stuff around them, and they would gouge out their own eye to receive a vision of their death. And this vision would influence, dictate how they rule the clan for the rest of their life. Pretty damn messed up. Also, fun fact, the warlock spell Eye of Kilrogg is named after this Kilrogg. For now, that's enough information on these warlords. Let's take a look at some of the other characters that have been confirmed to be part of the expansion. Like the warlords, most of them have a huge background and we can't go into full details, so I'll tell you the general backstory behind the character and later they'll get their individual videos. Garrosh Hellscream from our time is of course going to be on this Iron Horde Draenor, because he's going to set these events in motion. Our Garrosh didn't fight with the first Horde because he was sick. In the Burning Crusade, Thrall found him and told him about his father and the Horde on Azeroth. Garrosh travels back with Thrall after hearing these amazing stories, but seeing this new Horde confuses him. Trolls? Blood Elves? Democracy? Are you kidding me? And about this alliance, why aren't you conquering them? Thrall places him in charge and Garrosh tries to reform the Horde to his vision as he knew it from the old days. And as we all know, he got his butt kicked after the siege. Now he's going back in time, back to the time period of these legendary orcs of old. But will they be as he remembers them? Will his fantasy of this old Horde become a reality? They've explained that although he is part of the story and he is going to set things in motion, he's not the main guy. There is a guy behind the guy and they've confirmed that he won't be the end boss. He is going to be used to tell the story, but he won't be the main guy as we saw in Mist of Pandaria. Someone in the Q&A asked if they will deal with the similarities between Garrosh and Grom their story.
Step aside, Pandaren. You confront a force beyond reckoning.
Your father dabbled in powers beyond reckoning. Where is he now?
And they said it will get its part, that it will be satisfying ending for both Garrosh and the players, but that he will not get a redemption story. Thrall from our time is going to come with us to this Iron Horde Draenor. Our Thrall lost his parents, was found by Blackmoor and raised to be a gladiator with the end goal of Thrall leading the orcs for Blackmoor against the Alliance. Thrall escapes, meets Grom, meets Drek'thar, meets the Frostwolves and even meets Doomhammer. He learns about the shamanistic ways of his people and he frees the orcs from their internment camps. In this battle, Doomhammer is killed and he gives his armor, his legendary weapon Doomhammer and the title of Warchief to Thrall. Thrall creates a home for his people, allows other races into the Horde, teams up with humans and Night Elves against the Burning Legion, and in the Cataclysm he gives the title of Warchief to Garrosh to focus on his shamanistic side and team up with the aspects against Deathwing. He also met the love of his life Aggra and they even had a child together. He becomes the leader of the Earthen Ring and they try to heal the damage Deathwing caused to the world. When things took a turn for the worst, Thrall showed up to kick Garrosh out of the mantle of Warchief. Or at least he tried to do so. Once the deed was done, he did not take the title himself. Instead he gave it to Vol'jin and said that he would follow Vol'jin wherever he would lead them.
From this day forward, Vol'jin, if you lead, I will follow.
From that end cinematic, I assumed that Thrall would become the orcish racial leader, but they've said that it isn't sure yet. Chris Metzen himself said that if it was up to a vote, he would give that role to someone like Sourfang or Eitrigg. You would imagine that after the Cataclysm, an entire expansion dedicated to Thrall's journey into becoming this uber shaman and even a family man, that he would be done. That he would take his place at Aggra and his son's side and enjoy their retirement. Unfortunately, they can't let Thrall go just yet. They're going to place him back into the armor and send him off to Iron Horde Draenor to see what the orcs were truly like back in the day. Thrall has only heard stories about them and he only met the orcs after their corruption and defeat. He's going to meet his father and mother in their prime. He's going to meet the rest of his family, uncles, aunts, all that kind of good stuff. He's going to find out what the original Horde was all about and figure out where he comes from. Judging by Thrall's complete story, which we don't have the time to go into right now, he is going to get a rude wake-up call. Thrall is unique amongst the orcs. He is an orc, but also very much a human, which is completely different than where the Horde and the orcs started out from. They explained that they didn't like where Thrall is at the moment, as in shamanistic, happy family Thrall. They want to place him back into the armor and solve lots of problems with his hammer. It's going to be fun to see how Thrall's going to explain why he's green. Remember that on this Iron Horde Draenor, the only one with a green color is Gul'dan, possibly his crew, and Gul'dan tried to corrupt all the other orcs. But Garrosh prevented that. As far as I understand it, Garrosh and Thrall are not going to tell them that they are their children from the future. So I wonder how he's going to explain all these green orcs. I'm most excited to see how Thrall's going to react to Gul'dan. If anyone remembers the Cataclysm quest where Thrall splits up into the elements, he hasn't exactly forgiven what Gul'dan did to his people.
My parents, murdered before I could know them, betrayed. Gul'dan, if I must burn my way across the afterlife, I will find you in whatever hell you've hidden. I will have my revenge. Do you hear me?
Thrall shamanism and shamanism in general is also going to play a role in the expansion. These orcish shamans from Draenor are the real deal. It's a big part of their culture. They want to make it more mythical and diverse because now it's pretty much all about the elements and elemental lore. For example, they want to make it more diverse by making one clan very primal, the other very spiritual, the other out of their minds and cutting out their own eyes to receive visions. They want to make it more mythical by, for example, Ner'zhul goes to talk to the western wind, instead of just an element that you can actually see in front of him. By the way, Drek'thar, the shaman who taught Thrall all about shamanism on Azeroth, is going to play a role in the story, and you are going to see him go blind. And for those wondering, Aggra and even Thrall's son are not going to come with him, although it has stirred up some controversy about female heroes, and they might reverse that decision. If we look at Draka, Thrall's mother, she was one hell of a badass. When Thrall's father stood up and walked to Orgrim Doomhammer to tell him about Gul'dan's betrayal, he wanted Draka to stay behind with her child. She scratched his face and spit in it and told him that she was Draka and she would stand at his side no matter what. And Durotan thought to himself that there was no orc luckier to have found such a beautiful specimen of orcish woman. And now they've decided to turn Aggra into this stay-at-home mom, and that goes against the orcish ways, that goes against the orcish females, and especially Aggra, because she is no pushover. So hopefully they will reverse this decision and they will give her a role in the expansion. Would be lovely. On the Alliance side, we're going to see the Draenei in their prime. The Draenei were pretty much living in their own bubble on this savage planet, but with the rise of the Iron Horde, their bubble is going to be shattered. We're going to see the Draenei at their crucial turning point with all these Naaru, outlandish buildings and technology from outer space and really beautiful places. We got a glimpse of that of course in the Burning Crusade, but that was after the Horde already had their way. That was after the world was corrupted and destroyed. Now these Draenei are going to be exposed to this savage world, and the question becomes, do they become savages themselves or will they come together? What made these Draenei tick, and how will our Draenei respond to reliving this nightmare? In the trailer we can see Velen the Prophet, but the question is, which Velen are they going to use? The description on the website says the following. Velen's guidance persevered his people during an exodus from their homeworld Argus, but his wisdom is in question after the arrival of the Iron Horde on Draenor. What value is a prophet whose visions cannot prevent calamity? This makes me believe that we're going to see Velen of the Iron Horde Draenor, and from the trailer and the starting area that you could test at BlizzCon, it seems like Velen has a much more active role. Our Velen was always told to stay alive, don't get yourself killed, because you're going to get through this. You're going to make it one day and create the army of light ready to stand against the darkness. It seems that this time that isn't a problem, and it makes me believe that Velen knows something is up. He knows that this is not the way things are supposed to go down, and he's now taking a more active role in the defense of his people. A Velen who's actually going to fight will be quite the sight to behold, because this man is ancient, he is very attuned to the light, and he should be incredibly powerful. This is just my interpretation though. For all we know, we might see our Velen. For all we know, Velen still won't do anything. This is just my interpretation. Another Draenei that we're going to see in the Alliance starting area will be Akama. But not the Akama that you and I know. This Iron Horde Akama will not be a broken, he will be a full-fledged Draenei before they devolved. Our Akama was left behind to defend Karabor, the place that we know as the Black Temple. During that battle, a strange red mist followed the orcs, and this mist would transform the Draenei who inhaled it into broken. Akama is one of those broken, and later he would team up with Illidan to liberate the Black Temple from its new master, Mag'Faredon. Unfortunately, Illidan was as crazy as Mag'Faredon was, and Akama waited patiently for the day that the betrayer would become the betrayed, and he would get his temple back. Now we get the chance to see the temple that he remembers, defend it against this Iron Horde, and make sure that it never falls into ruin. One completely new Draenei that they've introduced from this Iron Horde Draenor is named Yrel. In our timeline, Yrel never made it into the story, so she's completely new, and they described her as a Joan of Arc type of character. I believe that means she's going to be one of the ordinary people, but circumstances drive her to be extraordinary, sacrificing herself for the greater good of her people, and they also dropped that she would be a mega level Alliance champion. I hope so. Would be great to see a Draenei step up to the plate. Although, as far as I remember, Joan of Arc didn't really have a happy ending. From our time period, Vindicator Maraad is going to come with us. Some of you might wonder, who the hell is Maraad? And with very good reason, because Maraad hasn't really done anything in-game. If you remember the Burning Crusade cinematic, the Draenei shown is Maraad. If you check out the flying ship in Icecrown, you'll see Maraad standing there. In the comics, he did get a part in the story of Medan. For those unaware, and once again with very good reasons, Medan is the son of Medivh and Garona, and most will know Medivh as the Prophet from Warcraft 3. Medivh was also the last Guardian, but his son Medan now has that job. In this comic, Maraad is the one who teaches Medan how to wield the light, and he's part of the new council of Tirisfal. However, Medan and all of his story has never been implemented into the game, never even mentioned as far as I know, so it brings up the question if you can consider it to be really part of the story. Nonetheless, one interesting thing to come out of this comic is that Maraad is the great uncle of Medan, and that makes him the uncle of Garona and brother of her mother. Garona Halforcen, she's half orc, half Draenei, and Gul'dan from our time forced Draenei and orc to mate in order to create her. In other words, a child born out of rape. So this Maraad, who has witnessed the Horde slaughtering his people, who has found Garona and Medan, has had to live with his sister and her fate, now he gets a chance to make things right. To prevent this Iron Horde to do to his people what our Horde has done. And for Blizzard a second chance to actually give this guy some story. Hopefully with a reunion with his sister and some badass revenge on Gul'dan. Possibly even teaming up with Garona and Thrall to get that revenge. Someone on Twitter asked if it could be possible that this Yrel character is the sister of Maraad. And I don't remember them ever giving a name to his sister, so it could be very possible that this Yrel character is the sister of Maraad. Time will tell. Garona from our time was born from a Draenei female and an orc male. Seeing how orcs and Draenei didn't really have a love connection, that means she was born from rape, in order of Gul'dan. She was then magically aged, tortured, and magical spells were placed on her mind to keep her obedient. She came in contact with Medivh, with Khadgar, Anduin Lothar, and King of Stormwind, Leon Rin, father of Varian Rin. She even befriended them, and she had a love relation with Medivh. And with Medivh she would have a child called Medan. But we'll get to Medan in a moment. They found out that Medivh was corrupted, they confronted him and killed him. Later, Garona would be forced, by the use of that mind spell that Gul'dan placed on her mind, to assassinate the King of Stormwind right in front of young Varian Rin.
The clans are united under Blackhand in this assault. They will stand together until Stormwind has fallen.
Before the coming of the end.
Gul'dan is bringing up his warlocks by nightfall. Until then, the Blackrock clan will be trying to take the eastern wall.
1,000 deaths.
We will hold until the reinforcements come. As long as men with stout hearts are manning the walls and the throne, Stormwind will hold.
The Orc leaders agree with your assessment.
She was tortured by Doomhammer to reveal who were in the Shadow Council, and because of that mind spell, she abandoned Medan for his own safety, but she always kept an eye on him. One day Garona got captured by the Twilight Hammer clan led by Cho'gall as she tried to save Medan. Cho'gall, being buddy-buddy with Gul'dan, knew about the spells placed on her mind and forced her to attack Faramore, where at the time a peace summit between Thrall, Garrosh, Jaina and Varian took place. Garona barges in, tries to kill Varian, and Varian gets his shot at killing the one who took his father's life. Garona fails to kill anyone, is captured by Jaina, and any peace between Alliance and Horde is shattered because Varian accuses the Horde of sending assassins after him, and Garrosh doesn't like to be insulted. Now comes Maraad into the picture, who has been searching for Garona, and he sets her free. Garona is then reunited with Medan, but it isn't safe for her to be around him for as long as Cho'gall knows her trigger word to activate that spell. They try to kill Cho'gall several times in the comics, in Twilight Highlands, all of those times they failed. We do manage to end Cho'gall in the Bastion of Twilight, making it safe for Garona to be around others again. Now they never said which version of Garona we're going to see, but since we're going to Iron Horde Draenor without a Gul'dan in charge, I would say that it's going to be our Garona. This lady, whose whole life has been messed up by Gul'dan from the day that she was born, gets the chance to take revenge. Gets the chance to prevent all of that. She might even be able to find her mother and the rest of her people that she's never met. I wonder what they might do with Garona Halforcen, this master assassin, how that's all going to play out. Because most people might not even know her background, who only play the game and don't read comics or novels. They might not even realize who this Garona is. Warlords of Draenor could be the perfect moment to actually get that story going. Now you might wonder, will we see Medan get a part in the story? They never said anything about him and nobody asked. Seeing how all these characters are connected in one story, Warlords of Draenor could be the perfect moment to introduce Medan to the story. It would still feel very strange though to suddenly dump this incredibly powerful character into the story without any proper explanation given. Besides that, a whole lot of people hate the character of Medan, so I personally don't think we will ever see Medan in the game, but that's just me. We will see Cho'gall and Teron Gorefiend, although Teron will be his orcish self. In our timeline, Cho'gall was one of the first ogre magi to be born for many generations, and he was noticed by Gul'dan. Gul'dan and Cho'gall became the best of friends, and Gul'dan taught him a few magic tricks. He was placed in charge of the Twilight's Hammer clan, and eventually he would take his clan and follow Gul'dan to the tomb of Sargeras. Doomhammer found out about this betrayal, and he sent some of his people after them to show what happens to those who don't uphold the honor of the Horde. Nearly all of them get killed, but Cho'gall manages to survive. He then makes his way to Ankirai, where he serves Kafun, and he tries to resurrect this old god. Kafun is the one who gave him a more old godish look, and in order to resurrect him, Cho'gall needs Medan. In the end his plans fail, but still he survives to fight another day. The next time that we see him is in the Cataclysm, where he now serves Deathwing, and by extension the old gods, in the hope of bringing about the Hour of Twilight, the end of the world.
Behold! The world you see before you has been judged. Fire, water, earth, air! All shall perish before the elements.
Burn and drown and crush and suffocate.
Join us and embrace the inevitable end.
The Master's power calls.
You will be reborn, stronger than flesh.
Strength beyond form, power in the infinite.
Swear your allegiance to me.
The Master wants, he sees and wants and hungers.
And you will be remade in my image.
Wait! Infidel! A heathen among us!
An intruder! You! Show yourselves, my ogres! Slay this insect!
Blood for the Master! Blood and suffering!
Did I mention that Cho'gall is evil and out of his mind? Yeah. That's going on. We finally managed to stop him in the Bastion of Twilight, ending his life and ending the reign of Cho'gall. They didn't say much about Iron Horde Cho'gall, only that he would be present. We know that Gul'dan, his plans are a no-go. No Shadow Council, no ruling of the Horde behind the curtains, but he is on the phone with Kil'jaeden, and we can be fairly certain that he will be a warlock. In my opinion, best case scenario is a team up of Garona, Thrall and Moran against Gul'dan and Cho'gall. That way these guys can work out their unresolved issues and get their killing blows on these two masters who messed up their entire lives.
The Twilight Council will suffer for their crimes. Cho'gall will pay.
Teron Gorefiend from our time is actually the orcish soul of one of Gul'dan's warlocks inside the body of a human soldier. The very first Death Knight. When Gul'dan was ruling the Horde behind the curtains, he made a council called the Shadow Council. These were the people that Gul'dan trusted, although this was still Gul'dan, so he didn't actually trust anybody, but these were the guys who helped him rule the Horde behind the curtains. When Durotan told Doomhammer about Gul'dan's betrayal, Doomhammer tortured Garona until she told all she knew about the Shadow Council. He then killed nearly all of them to root out this corruption of the Horde. This was during the time period that Gul'dan was in a coma, and when he woke up, Cho'gall told him what happened to the council. Doomhammer was about to kill Gul'dan, but Gul'dan managed to convince him to keep him alive, and in exchange he would make him more powerful troops. The first troops that he made were the original Death Knights, and don't confuse them with the Death Knights Arthas made. These were very different. These were the souls of Gul'dan's former Shadow Council placed inside the bodies of fallen Alliance soldiers. These Death Knights were the counterpart to the Alliance their Paladins. They were incredibly powerful, dark magic and pure evil. When the first Horde invasion failed, Teron Gorefiend was the one who came up with a plan to create more portals to different worlds. He got Ner'zhul and Grom Hellscream on board, and he was one of the people who set out into Azeroth to collect the artifacts required. Later it was he who joined Ner'zhul on his journey to the Black Temple, and he was eventually killed by Thrall. In the Burning Crusade we got a questline where a spirit tricks us into reclaiming his artifacts, and in the end we restored Teron Gorefiend, making him one of the bosses in the Black Temple.
I was the first, you know. For me, the wheel of death has spun many times. So much time has passed. I have a lot of catching up to do.
On this Iron Horde Draenor, Gorefiend will be around, but in his orcish form before Gul'dan turned him into a Death Knight. They also said that he will be part of Gul'dan's crew, and if he's anything like the original Teron Gorefiend, then he should be one hell of an evil and powerful orc. As you might have noticed by now, I've dropped the name Doomhammer a couple of times, and Orgrim Doomhammer played a huge part in the story of our Horde. He didn't make it into the 7 Warlords picture, but they have confirmed that he will be around. Doomhammer from our time was the best friend of Durotan, Thrall's father. He was second in command to Blackhand, and Blackhand was the first war chief of the Horde, but in reality he was the puppet of Gul'dan. Doomhammer knew that something wasn't quite right with all the events that took place within the Horde, but he was loyal to Blackhand. When Gul'dan offered them more power, Doomhammer refused, even though he didn't know that this was demon blood. He just knew that Gul'dan couldn't be trusted, and he refused to drink it. On Azeroth, Durotan came to Doomhammer with the information on Gul'dan's betrayal. Doomhammer took this very personal and decided to step up and do something about it. He challenged his war chief Blackhand, and remember, he was loyal to Blackhand all the way, and now he knew that something needed to be done. So he challenged him for the title of war chief, and he even defeated him. He tortured Garona for information on the Shadow Council, and he killed nearly all of them. His mission was to lead his people, the Horde, back to their honorful ways, while still trying to conquer this new land that they simply needed. He allowed Gul'dan to live in exchange for the Death Knights. He recruited trolls of Azeroth into the Horde. He allowed Gul'dan to experiment and make Ogre Magi, and he led the siege on Lordaeron. The siege of Lordaeron would prove that leaving Gul'dan alive was a big mistake. Gul'dan and Cho'gall took their clans and they set off to the tomb of Sargeras, abandoning the rest of the Horde. Doomhammer was furious and he was forced to make an example out of them, and he sent some of his troops after Gul'dan to show what happens to those who don't uphold the honor of the Horde. This lost them the siege of Lordaeron, and you might think, well, that's stupid, but this was what Doomhammer was all about. A victory on Azeroth would mean nothing if it meant that the Horde would remain this honorless band of warmongers. It was his mission to see Gul'dan's corruption undone, and unfortunately this cost them the war. The Horde was pushed back from Lordaeron all the way back to Blackrock Mountain, where Doomhammer faced off in his final battle against Anduin Lothar. He defeated Lothar, and he expected the Alliance to crumble as their leader had fallen. Quite the opposite happened, and it was Thrall who found his faith in the light and avenged his fallen hero by defeating Doomhammer. He did keep Doomhammer alive to be put on trial, but Doomhammer escaped. For years he roamed the land of Azeroth until Thrall came into the picture. He teamed up with Thrall, they released the imprisoned orcs and reformed the Horde. As they were fighting to liberate their brothers, Doomhammer got hit from behind and he was killed. He gave his armor, he gave his weapon Doomhammer and his title of war chief to Thrall.
I am the war chief. For Doomhammer!
The weapon Doomhammer goes from father to son, and it has a prophecy behind it. This prophecy was explained in the novel Rise of the Horde, where both Durotan and Orgrim their lives were saved by the Draenei, and they got a chance to sit down with Velen for a chat. It is said that the last of the Doomhammer line will use it to bring first salvation and then doom to the orc people. Then it will pass into the hands of one who is not of the Blackrock clan. All will change again and it will once again be used in the cause of justice. This prophecy has been fulfilled in our timeline. Orgrim used the Doomhammer to lead his people to salvation from the corruption of Gul'dan and Blackhand. Later he led them to their doom as he sends his troops away to deal with Gul'dan, and eventually they lose the war. Then it passes on to Thrall, who uses it to bring justice for his people. This Iron Horde Doomhammer, both the weapon and the orc, should be around, so I wonder how he's going to react to a duplicate Doomhammer in the hands of Thrall. Also this prophecy, how is it going to play out for this Iron Horde? They said that there will be a storyline between Durotan and Orgrim and that Durotan will feel betrayed. I found this very interesting because in our timeline, Durotan never felt betrayed by Orgrim, even though he stayed at Blackhand's side. Potential, lots of potential for some awesome storytelling. Khadgar will be with us through the portal, and his description on the website says that he will be Alliance. Khadgar has a huge story behind him that we don't have the time to go into right now, so the extremely short version would be the following. He was the apprentice of Medivh and a friend to Garona. It was Khadgar who found out about Medivh's corruption, that it was Medivh who opened the dark portal for the first Horde invasion.
The time has come! Gul'dan, order your warlocks to double their efforts! Moments from now, the gateway will open, and your horde will be released upon this ripe, unsuspecting world.
Khadgar, Garona and Anduin Lothar went to the Karazhan to confront Medivh. In that battle, Medivh literally sucked the life out of Khadgar, making him look much older than he really was. They did manage to kill Medivh in the end, and later Khadgar would play a vital role in the war against the Horde. He was the one who followed Lothar to Lordaeron as the Horde took Stormwind. He was the one who closed the Dark Portal for the first time, but he was unable to destroy the portal for good.
Calling upon the arcane powers of the Archwizard Khadgar, the fury of the earth and skies were unleashed upon the Dark Portal to destroy it once and for all. Blinding light dimmed, an eerie glow fell across the black morass. For though the portal was destroyed, the rift that joined these worlds at war yet remained.
He was the one who followed Thrall as he was leading the Alliance army beyond the Dark Portal. When Ner'zhul made all his portals, Draenor was about to get destroyed, and his destruction would flow over into Azeroth if the Dark Portal remained open. The Alliance troops, they made the ultimate sacrifice by closing the portal from the Draenor side and making sure that Azeroth remained safe. Thankfully, as Draenor was exploding, they found one of the portals and were able to hide inside until Draenor was done transforming into Outland as we know it today. Khadgar and the others then took refuge within Honor Hold and vowed to stop the Horde from ever doing the same damage that it did to Azeroth. In the Burning Crusade, the portal reopens and we find Khadgar in Shafra together with the Naaru Adal. The Naaru have come to battle against the Legion and Khadgar stands at their side willing to aid both the Horde and the Alliance. Around the time that the Dark Portal reopens, he also meets Marad and Medan and he could see a resemblance between Medan and his old mentor Medivh. Later, it would be revealed that Khadgar became a member of the Council of Six in Dalaran, and this council is made up by those who rule Dalaran and all the territory controlled by Dalaran. Khadgar was the one who said that Jaina, after the death of Ronan, should be the new main leader of the Kirin Tor based on a prophecy written by Croesus. Like I said, that's the very short version, and Khadgar is one of those characters that deserves his own video, and he will get it in the future. So what can we expect from Khadgar in Warlords of Draenor? If they do it right, he's going to go back into his role of fighting the Horde. They've pretty much turned him into this neutral character who didn't do much, and now with the return of the Horde that he battled before, now is the time for him to shine. He should be an incredibly powerful mage. I mean, he was taught by the best of the best. Khadgar in action should be awesome to see, and he might play a role in the whole Naaru storyline, which brings us to the next confirmed part of the story, Naaru, Blood Elves and Paladin lore. In the Q&A, someone asked if they're going to deal with the Blood Elves, who in our time abused Outland and abused the Naaru named Muru.
Our arrogance was unpardonable. We damned one of the most noble beings of all. we may never atone for this sin.
Once again, long story short, Kilfa's Sunstrider captured the Naaru named Muru and he sent him to his people. There they figured out it would be a good idea to suck his power out of him and use it to be able to wield the light. Lady Liadrin was one of the first to do this, but later Kilfas would team up with Kil'jaeden and attack his own people to bring Muru back. At that moment, Lady Liadrin made her way to Shafra and talked with Adal. There she found out that Muru willingly sacrificed himself for the greater good and that Velen had seen everything that would happen in a vision. Lady Liadrin stepped away from Kilfas and pledged herself and the Blood Knights to Adal and the Shattered Sun offensive. They would eventually aid in stopping Kil'jaeden from entering Azeroth, and there Velen used the core of Muru to restore the Sunwell and give the Blood Elves a chance at a new future.
Then fortunate it is that I have reclaimed the noble Naaru's spark from where it fell. Where faith dwells, hope is never lost, young blood elf.
Can it be?
Gaze now, mortals, upon the heart of Muru, unblemished, bathed by the light of creation, just as it was at the dawn. In time, the light and hope held within will rebirth more than this mere fount of power. Mayhap they will rebirth the soul of a nation.
Blessed ancestors! I feel it. So much love. So much grace. There are no words. Impossible to describe.
Salvation, young one. It waits for us all. Farewell.
You might wonder, who are these Naaru? Well, the Naaru are beings of pure light and they first showed themselves when Velen and the Draenei escaped from the planet Argus. They're hell-bent on fighting the Burning Legion, and although rare, they can fall to darkness, as we've seen with Muru transforming into Entropius. On this Iron Horde Draenor, I would imagine that this is a great opportunity to dive deeper into the history of the Naaru, explore their origin, and combine that with some excellent Paladin and Blood Elf lore. There is a whole bunch of speculation behind the Naaru, from them being the souls of fallen titans, all the way to them being the moon goddess for the Night Elves, Elune. This would be a perfect time to shed some light on all that speculated information. They might even confirm that the Naaru are the source of all light, both for the Draenei, for the Blood Elves, for the humans. Anyone who wields the light gets it from the Naaru. It's hard to predict what they could do with the Blood Elves in their story. The only thing that I can imagine is them trying to repay their debt to Velen by protecting the Naaru on Iron Horde Draenor. But they didn't share any details, so we'll just have to wait to find out. With this storyline, I could also see the start of Prince Anduin's journey into the leader of the Army of Light. Velen has seen a vision of this, and a savage planet like Draenor with the Draenei and the Naaru in their prime might be a great way to start that journey. I speculated before that the return of Tyrellian and Illyria might have been a great way to start this journey, but they said that we won't be seeing them on Iron Horde Draenor. Christy Golden is also writing a new novel surrounding the trials of Garrosh, and she said that Anduin will have a lot of growth in that book. I may not like his character as he is right now, but it doesn't mean that they can't turn him into the badass that he could be. Let's hope so. One final character that is confirmed to be in the expansion is our warlord Zaela.
For Hellscream!
Zaela survived the siege and she will join Garrosh later in the expansion. She's going to follow him to the Iron Horde Draenor. They also answered the question if we will be seeing the Dragonmaw clan, and they said that there are many smaller clans that they haven't really worked out yet, so they don't know exactly what clan will get what role in the story.
Honestly, we haven't talked all that much about the Dragonmaw so far, but I would say that that is a possibility. There's a lot of like kind of second tier orc clans that all have pretty cool kits, but we haven't been exhaustive yet.
Someone already asked about Rexxar, and I really hope that they will give him an origin story, or at least a part in the story. The same goes for Broxigar. If you've seen the video, the legendary orc who in our time managed to land a strike on Sargeras himself, I would love to see him in the expansion. And he should be around. I asked Lorology on Twitter if he knew anything about this, and sadly he couldn't confirm it yet, so fingers crossed, and let's hope that they don't forget about him. I was pondering if I needed to do a segment about the new zones, but I don't have more information to offer than what they've described on the website. What I do want to let you know is that they've given a couple of hints for what we can expect from the areas without a name. The area in the top right corner is called Fedalon, the area that we know as Netherstorm. This will be added later in a patch, but no further details. The area in the bottom left is a mysterious ogre continent. This is where the ogre civilization is placed before they came in contact with the orcs. There's supposed to be one really epic city built on this continent, but again, no details given. Some of you already asked me, Noble, what do you think about Warlords of Draenor? And in my opinion, going over this list of characters really shows how much potential the expansion has, both to the story and the features. It is of course thin ice what they're playing with. First of all, time travel is always such a weak device in the story, and from Warcraft's history they never nailed it. So this time they just said, okay, we're going to use time travel, but we're not going to deal with the complications. I fear that might feel cheap, but if done right I can overlook it if the rest of the expansion is great. Another part that worries me is that I understand the idea behind going back to Draenor. I mean, Warcraft 1 and 2, a Burning Crusade expansion, getting people back into their seats and behind the computers. I can understand that. But these warlords are not all going to be our friend. Some of them will have to take down, some of them will become different than what we know about them. So I wonder how people are going to react if they have to fight, for example, Garrosh Hellscream. A lot of people place them on a pedestal of one badass orc, one hero of the orcs. And now they'll have to fight him. I can understand it if they don't agree with that. I can understand it if they would actually want to team up with the warlords. So that's the thin ice. But then again, there is a lot of room for some great storytelling. And like I said, there's a lot of potential for this expansion. So we can only hope that they do it right and that we don't have to follow Thrall through the entire expansion and that they will actually give a story to everybody. Would be fantastic. Besides that, I've seen a lot of naysayers on the forum saying that this expansion is going to be crap and yada yada yada. We don't know what this expansion is going to be like until they've released it. We have no idea what other leaders of the Alliance and Horde might come with us. We have no idea what the story behind some of the new races on Iron Horde Draenor will be. We have no idea how the invasion is going to start. We have no idea if we're going to see Old Gods, if we're going to see Burning Legion, hints of Titans. We don't even know who the end boss will be. Someone did ask the question in the Q&A, and just to give you the picture behind it why I think this answer is bullshit, here's the clip.
How you doing, Brunsgott, Badass Warrior? Got a question. In Myth, before you even released it, really, you said, Garrosh, last boss. Do you know what the last boss is in Warlords of Draenor? Or can you tell us, please?
Grom Hellscream.
What? Alright.
What, did you not want to know?
So we can kick both Hellscream's ass.
That's right.
You're welcome.
They answered this question with Grom Hellscream, but elsewhere in the presentation they said that it wouldn't be just an orc dude.
Having said all that, I'm sure many of you are thinking like, oh, God, don't tell us. Another orc, really? Tell us this orc is not the boss of the expansion series. We want to get ahead of it. He's not. Garrosh facilitates the storytelling. This was the natural flow. And while he will be heavily involved in the storytelling, he's not the guy. There's a guy behind the guy. Those of you who are astute may conclude very quickly who the guy might be, but we're gonna let that ride for a little while longer. I guess I'd also like to tease as the panel goes. The end boss of this whole giddy up, as so far as we're thinking today, it won't just be an orc dude. Take that as you will.
If I had to make a guess, I would say that Kairos, or Nosdormu on his way to being corrupted, would have a high chance of being an end boss. If you need to stop this alternative reality from invading your reality, then killing the one who has the power and the will to do so might be a good start. We don't know, and for all we know, they might throw a curveball with something completely different. Only time will tell. That's all the information that I could find, and you guys and girls have sent me a couple of questions, and this additional information might be handy for everyone. Let's see what questions we can answer, shall we? Will Saurfang join us? There's been no confirmation given about this, but they've only said that if it was up to a vote, Chris Metzen would make either Saurfang or Eitrigg the next racial leader for the orcs. Nothing else has been said about Saurfang himself, but I would find it very funny to see our Saurfang meeting younger Saurfang. Could be very cool. Also, I'm really annoyed by the setup story. It has always been established that the orcs were peaceful and shamanistic before the drinking of the demon blood. Even says it in the race background when creating a new character. This is what made the orcs truly unique to me, and now it seems this uncorrupted Iron Horde are just as bloodthirsty as the horde that drank the demon blood. Because seems to me they are again tweaking what has been established to fit with the theme of the expansion, and it makes the lore as a whole weaker. I'll stop moaning now and try and wait till launch to drone on, but what are your thoughts on this? I can't agree more. That's also one of the things that struck me as something they could screw up. Even though these are not our orcs and the events on Draenor won't affect our history, you can still see what the orcs would do without the demon blood, which can change all the lore behind the orcs as we know it. The orcs were not warmongers, they lived in relative peace, worshipping their ancestors and having a party every once in a while. Of course they had the occasional battle with ogres or Gron or even competitive amongst each other, but they never had the desire for world domination. The whole reason why they turned into the warmongers was Kil'jaeden the Deceiver. And eventually, of course, his demon blood. Garrosh is not as powerful as Kil'jaeden was, he's not so manipulative, so I wonder what he can say or do to turn these orcs into the same horde as we've seen with the first invasion. Only this time they won't have the excuse of demon blood, so it will be interesting to see what exactly he can do to turn them from peaceful orcs to warmongers. I can only speculate on this, and somehow I have the idea that they're going to change some of the events as we know it. In our timeline, the current order is the following. We have Kil'jaeden into the picture, Ner'zhul tells them all to get ready for war, Ner'zhul finds out that Kil'jaeden is bad and he wants out. At that moment his apprentice Gul'dan steps in and continues to follow Kil'jaeden's orders. He offers the rest demon blood, and Kil'jaeden leaves them behind once the deed is done, and he believes the Draenei to be dead. At that moment, Medivh contacts Gul'dan in a dream and tells him about Azeroth and explains how he can build the Dark Portal. That's the order as we know it. Now the new order for this Iron Horde Draenor could be exactly the same as we've seen it, as in Ner'zhul gets everyone pumped up and ready for war, Gul'dan steps in, but only the moment where they drink the demon blood, that moment will be changed. That way we still have the same reason as to why they become the warmongers, because once you taste the blood of Draenei and once you're in battle it's hard to get out of that mindset, and all Garrosh has to do at that point is direct them to Azeroth. That brings up a new question though, how is Garrosh going to make them build the Dark Portal? In the original story it was Medivh who told Gul'dan how to do it. On this new Iron Horde Draenor, if they follow the normal order, that won't happen. Garrosh isn't trained in the arts of magic, so how are they going to make this portal? Maybe he's going to bring the Book of Medivh with him, that should have some notes. Maybe Kairos will have some additional information for them. Maybe they're going to alter the chain of events and make Medivh contact Gul'dan anyways, despite the Draenei not being dead yet. We don't know, and I hope that they give a proper explanation for this and a good story behind it. But we can only hope for that and wait for the release as you stated in your question. Will we see Nobundo? They didn't say anything about him, but I really hope so. For those that don't know his story, I'll place a link in the description to his free short story, and it explains a little bit about how the Draenei experienced the war with the orcs for the very first time, and it's just a very sad and powerful story. Can recommend it if you want to get ready for this expansion, and it would be awesome to see these Iron Horde Draenei to get in contact with our Draenei who have the shamanism of the orcs, who have these broken fighting with them. Would be awesome to see, and I hope they're going to do something with it. Do you think they will add a new hero class, normal class or races they just didn't want to announce it yet? I don't work for Blizzard, so I can't tell you what they will or will not do, but I would imagine that a new race or class, that's something you want to get people hyped about and you want to promote that at BlizzCon. So I personally don't think we will see a new playable race or class in this expansion. What do you think about the fact that there are 2 Burning Legions now, since Garrosh is going to connect a different timeline with the one we have, so there are actually 2 Sargerasuses now? Yep, that's the can of worms that you open up when you add the possibility of connecting multiple realities to each other. You're absolutely right, there are now going to be 2 of everything we haven't killed yet, and even some of the bad guys that we did kill, they're now back. The only thing they've got going is that Draenor isn't connected to anything else besides our Azeroth. That means that anything going on Iron Horde Azeroth won't be a problem. I mean, that world is pretty much doomed, since they won't have the Horde invading, they'll never have the Alliance as we know it, and they won't be able to band together against bad guys like Kafun or Kel'Thuzad, or anything that required both factions to take it out. They won't have both factions. That world will most likely die, or explode, or be taken over by darkness, but hey, we don't care, because we need to deal with Iron Horde Draenor. To connect to this question, does that mean that we will have to fight, for example, 2 Kil'jaedens? I highly doubt it, to be honest. Kil'jaeden is on the phone with Gul'dan, he might try to manipulate certain events, but I don't see a massive battle against Kil'jaeden himself. The main reason for this is because we still have a Kil'jaeden to fight on our world, on our timeline. Even if we defeat this Iron Horde Kil'jaeden, first of all, it won't make a difference. And second of all, that would mean that we have to fight our Kil'jaeden for a second time. And how lame would it be to fight the same boss twice in a row? I mean, where would be the challenge? Yeah, we just defeated you in Warlords of Draenor and now you're going to invade again. But we know that we are powerful enough to take you on. That would be kinda silly, and that's the main reason why I believe that we won't be seeing much of the Burning Legion or Kil'jaeden. It's always a possibility, of course. In my opinion, it would just suck. What I do wonder is if they'll resurrect Gruul the Dragon Slayer and make him a boss again. Or perhaps the Iron Horde Draenor will push into our side. Would be interesting to see. I'm not sure which are your opinions about this, but I basically played WoW because of the lore. And I was really excited about Refion's quest for Titan lore, which would have, sooner or later, finished the lore. Yeah, you must keep your games up, but are we supposed to wait 1 or 2 years to get something about that plot? Well, first of all, finishing the lore will probably never happen. Mist of Pandaria showed that they can still create new stories, and if they want, they can keep the story going forever. The rest of your question, I have to admit, and for those who follow me on Facebook, you already know this, I was a bit disappointed with the time travel story. There was so much teasing and hinting in Mist of Pandaria. There's so much unexplored lore and story that they can still deal with on our Azeroth. But instead they decide to go and dump it all behind for an adventure on Draenor. That kinda sucks, but on the other hand, seeing these Warlords of Draenor, after researching the story a little bit, I'm excited to see what they're going to do. As long as they don't make me follow Thrall around for the entire expansion like they did in the Cataclysm, I'm okay with it. All these other stories, they will still be there and we can explore them later. Besides that, just because we're going to follow Garrosh to Iron Horde Draenor, doesn't mean that they can't connect it to the current storyline.
We are in a space where we're trying to think very far ahead of the expansion sets we are currently working on. Although we can't get into it today for obvious reasons. How this one escalates and what happens at the end of this one, it's going to spill over into the next one. So as you guys call out names of characters you want to see, yeah, we want to see them too. So as usual, bear with us. I hope you guys are in for the long haul, because we are. And we've got expansion sets galore kind of lined up in the queue like bullets in a 6-shooter. So please be patient with us. We will get to it all.
Thank you, Chris.
I speculated in my time travel videos about Refion, Kairos, perhaps even Anduin aiding Garrosh in buying us more time, or perhaps changing our reality. We know that's not going to happen, since Iron Horde Draenor will not affect our history, so I was wondering, what's the motivation behind letting Garrosh out of his cage and giving him this golden ticket for time traveling? Once again, we can only speculate, but someone on the forum came up with the idea to add Iron Horde Draenor troops to our troops at the end of the expansion. Think about it, both Draenei and Orcs have lost a whole bunch of troops, and they could fill those numbers up with what they collect from Iron Horde Draenor. Those that don't side with the Iron Horde could follow us back to Azeroth. The Draenei that survive could fill up the ranks of the Draenei on our Azeroth. That way, our Azeroth defense team will have bigger numbers and perhaps enough numbers to stand against the coming Burning Legion. That's just one idea though. Someone else came up with the idea that Refion is going to make Garrosh create this alternative reality in the hopes that this Iron Horde Draenor will conquer our planet, and then that complete Iron Horde Draenor will be able to defend it against the Burning Legion. We don't know what Blizzard is planning, and I can't wait to find out. They're going to show how Drek'thar went blind? I thought he was born blind. I had to check this one out on Wowpedia, and apparently little is known of Drek'thar's early life, beyond the fact that some stories claim he was blind from birth, and others that he was an apprentice shaman to the Frostwolf Farseer, Mother Kesher, for many years on Draenor. The information that he was born blind apparently comes from the WoW manual, so apparently that information is wrong and he wasn't born blind and we're going to see him go blind.
As an orc shaman will go into Draenor with the shamanism that was developed on Azeroth. Since we're dealing with the race of shamans who were not locked up into Azeroth, what kind of mega powerful shamanism that developed over 35 years on Draenor are we going to be seeing, and will it change our method of shamanism as well?
You're gonna see awesome stuff. You're gonna see Drek'thar. You're gonna see that actually embodying in Drek'thar. You're gonna see him go blind from just messing with the elements, so to speak. But they're actually huge shamanistic elemental lines that we're going to play with in this expansion. There's going to be a lot that we tell, I think. Yeah.
Why do we even have to go back in time and stop Garrosh if it won't change our version of Azeroth? We need to go back in time to stop the Iron Horde from invading our reality. That's the main threat behind this expansion, and that's the main reason why we need to take out this army. Why don't we just blow up the portal? Because we tried it before after the first Horde invasion, and the link between Draenor and Azeroth can't be broken. So I would imagine that in this storyline you can't just take out the Dark Portal. Why don't we station troops at the portal to keep any invading force from entering? I don't know, but it's possible that this invading force will be so great that the only option is to go to Draenor and dismantle it at the core. Why doesn't Garrosh wait with invading until the Draenei are destroyed? And why does he invade our Azeroth instead of old Azeroth on his Iron Horde reality? I have no idea. Perhaps Kairos played a little trick on him. Perhaps they promised him that he would have a fresh Azeroth to conquer, and instead they make a connection to our Azeroth. I don't know. I hope they will give it a good introduction story, but there's a big chance that they don't deal with any of this, and that they just send us to Iron Horde Draenor because they can. Because they want to show these old heroes, these old orcish warlords in their prime, and they want us to explore Draenor as it was in its prime, together with the Draenei and the Naaru, all that storytelling, and it's very possible that they said, okay, we want to show this, how can we do this? Shall we just go with alternative realities? Why not? Let's do it, let's push people through the Dark Portal again, and let's have some fun. Very possible, and we won't know until they release the expansion. What about Illidan? They didn't mention Illidan, so as far as we know, our Illidan is still dead. The Illidan created in this Iron Horde reality should still be in his prison, and like I said, Iron Horde Azeroth won't be connected to Draenor, so we won't have to deal with anything that's related to old Azeroth. Will we still be able to visit Outland as well, as it now exists? Yes, we will be able to visit it. They weren't sure yet on how they're going to do it, but they were talking about moving that portal to the Caverns of Time. No matter what solution they come up with, I can guarantee you the old content will still be available. Is Gul'dan on the phone with our Kil'jaeden or Iron Horde Kil'jaeden? That's actually a very interesting question, and they didn't specify which Kil'jaeden is on the phone. From all the surrounding information, I would say that it's Iron Horde Kil'jaeden, but that's just my interpretation. Why did the orcs drink the demon blood, and what were the consequences of doing so? They drank the demon blood because Gul'dan offered it as a way to increase their power, as a blessing by the beings who were so good to them. Only Durotan, Ner'zhul and Gul'dan knew what it actually was. The rest just believed it was a way for more power and a very nice blessing. This is a quote from the book as Kil'jaeden grants Gul'dan the blood of Menoroth. Behold, the blood of the Destructor, gloated Kil'jaeden. It burns away all that will not serve you, Gul'dan. It cleanses all thoughts of hesitation, confusion or uncertainty. It creates a hunger that can be directed any way you choose. Drinking the blood turned them into slaves of the Burning Legion. It increased their power, it increased their bloodlust, and it gave them red burning eyes. They used this power to murder nearly all the Draenei, but later found out that this bloodlust would drive them crazy. They turned on each other, and something had to be done before they killed each other, and this led to the first invasion of Azeroth. Many years later, Grom and Thrall would kill Menoroth and free the orcs from their slavery to the demons. I always thought that drinking demon blood instantly turned you green, but I'm not so sure anymore. I've been trying to Google it, but I'm getting different answers from different sources. More of you have been asking about the different skin color of the orcs, and this is what I know about it. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. Brownish is the original color of the orcs, much like Garrosh. The orcs slowly turned green because they started to use fel magic. Even those who came in close contact with this magic, they also turned green. That's why Thrall's parents, they're also green, even though they never used fel magic. Garrosh remained brown because he was sick with red pox and he had to stay in Nagrand. For some reason, Nagrand remained immune to the corruption of the planet, and by effect the people who stayed there also kept their own skin color. Now, as I said, I thought drinking demon blood would complete the transformation and instantly turn you green, but I'm not sure about this. The burning red eyes is a clear sign of demon blood pumping in your veins. You might wonder, why is Thrall green? Because the green corruption sticks, and any children born from green parents will also be green. Aggra and Thrall, brown and green orcs, they have about 50% chance at either a green or a brown child. If you remember the vision in the Cataclysm, the water vision of Thrall's children, you could see that one was brown and one was green. Orcs turn red when they drink a whole bunch of demon blood, or if they drink it for a second time, like we've seen with Grom and his troops in Warcraft 3. Orcs who are black or greyish, that skin color belongs to the orcs who stay for a longer period of time underground. Although even that skin color has some discussion behind it, because it could be just a game mechanic to make it easier to understand who belongs in what clan. So that's my information on the skin colors of the orcs. If you have any additional information or if something is wrong, feel free to let me know in the comments. Will Blackhand, Durotan and others be able to step through the portal and live in our time? Yes, from what I understand it, the Iron Horde wants to invade our Azeroth, so technically they could do that. How can you say that they won't deal with the time travel stuff? That makes no sense. I say that because someone in the Q&A asked the exact same questions as the complications for the time travel thing, and they literally said they're not going to deal with it, and I'll show you the clip so that you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, right. Thanks for making the game. I want to ask, because we've got the time aspect in the expansion, does that mean we're going to have double ups on certain characters, like to vindicate the Morans? Because...
Nope. No.
Oh!
And it's because we're clever.
Awesome.
Again, we really want the emphasis to be on Draenor, and so we can decide what kind of story we want to tell, and we're not really telling the time travel story, we're not really telling the paradox story, we're telling a story about going to this world and kicking butt.
Since UBRS is being revamped for Warlords of Draenor, and Rent is there at the moment, do you think he will stay there, or will he join the father-son fest somehow? I believe we killed Rent, so I don't think he'll be part of the story. I do wonder what they're going to do with the revamp of UBRS, since most of the story will take place on Iron Horde Draenor. Perhaps they're going to place the initial invading force from the Iron Horde, perhaps they'll place them in UBRS, which was the original old base for the original Horde, which is inside Blackrock Mountain. On a side note, they said that there will be 2 revamped dungeons, and one we know, one is going to be UBRS. I was wondering what dungeon could be the second one. Now it could be Anduin, perhaps that's the instance that they count as a revamp, but as far as I know, Iron Horde Draenor is going to be completely different from our reality, so I'm not entirely sure. The second option could be, of course, lower Blackrock Spire, because if you're going to do upper Blackrock Spire, why not take the lower section with it? But on the other hand, MMO Champion the other day had some screenshots of Karazhan being cleaned up. I wonder if they're going to revamp Karazhan into perhaps a dungeon or a raid or something like that. I think that would be awesome, and if you're looking for a place where you can bend time and you need some notes on how to create a dark portal, I would go to Karazhan. Would be absolutely amazing, because Karazhan is one of my favorite raids. What's Jaina going to do? I have no idea. They didn't say much about how they're going to continue the story that they've been building up with Mr. Pandaria. I do know that Christy Golden is writing a new novel that will tell the story of Garrosh on trial. Everyone will get a part in it, and she also said that the relation between Kalik and Jaina isn't going great. From that information, I would speculate that she's still stuck in that Horde must die mindset, which pushes Kalik away, and who knows what she might do. Alrighty, final question already, because I've been talking for way too long. Will we get a new legendary questline, and will they put Rephion in Warlords of Draenor?
My question is, are we going to see Rathion in the next expansion?
I love Wrathion. You guys love Wrathion? Yeah. Pretty cool. I think he played a great role in Pandaria, and he helped kind of put the whole story together in Pandaria in a really neat way. He might take a little bit of a break. It doesn't feel right to have him do another legendary quest in the next expansion, so I would expect a cameo, but I wouldn't expect that kind of role again for Wrathion.
So he's not the final boss of Warlords?
He's Grommash will ride him into battle.
Hold. My question is about the legendary. I've worked on 2 legendaries now. I worked on Dragwrath, got that done. It felt like a huge accomplishment. This one just feels like a raid requirement. Is that something you're going to see again in the future, or?
I think that we definitely want to do a legendary quest line. I don't think that those are exclusive concepts. I think that something we want to get in 6.0 is both a legendary quest line for a type of item, kind of like the cape, while also being able to do the other types of legendaries that are a lot more exclusive to, killing a really hard boss. So in the same way that, right now we have the Garrosh heirloom weapons, those are a little bit more exclusive, almost like the old legendaries worked. They aren't really exactly the same, but more along those lines. And I really think that we can have a balance between both of them.
So Wrathion won't play a big part in the expansion, and they were talking about possibly a legendary questline again in 6.0 with another more rare legendary to get. No details given, we don't know exactly what item it will be, but I like that they already teased with a possible legendary questline, because I loved Wrathion's questline. I loved the story behind it, I loved the reward for it. It was great. Hopefully they'll do something like that again. I would love to see it. And with that, I'm going to end this Q&A. Thank you very much everyone for sticking with me during this Warlords of Draenor coverage. It's been a couple of hectic weeks, but also a lot of fun. I hope I got you excited about the next expansion, as excited as I am. I hope Blizzard is going to do it justice, and I hope we will get some beta access. So if somebody at Blizzard is watching this and you've got a spare key for someone laying around, I would love to cover the beta, and hopefully you guys would enjoy seeing that. For now, I hope you have an amazing weekend, and until next time guys, see ya!
Our bond is iron, our will unbreakable. Who will stand against us?